So, hello and welcome to a beautiful interview with Tobin. Tobin is a fellow YouTuber who's definitely a source of inspiration because Tobin is all about self sufficiency and teaching people how to live a life that is really more in resonance with what they are seeking. And so, I'm so excited to chat with Tobin. Welcome, Tobin.
Thank you very much for all the kind words.
And Tobin, let's begin by how do you feel that you are igniting change in the world?
Very good question, I guess, for all of us. I just would say seed by seed, kind of. That my intention, my daily time and energy expenditure is spent on growing trees and plants, and mostly edible and medicinal trees and plants.
Why is it so important that we seed save? Because I think I would like you just to elaborate a little bit more on what you're doing in terms of seed saving. Like you are propagating varieties that have been lost, right? And you are gaining or trying to regain knowledge that has been lost. So yeah, I would just love to hear like what is it that you're really how are you impacting the world with these seeds?
So I guess primarily my first thought went to I sell trees now, and I sell seeds, and I sell plants, and all types of things for people to repopulate their properties that might be just like grass with medicinals, edibles, florals. Like you said, some are species that are not sold in stores as seeds. They're things that I've gained from my neighbors here. So yeah, saving species that are rare. I grow a lot of rare fruit trees and spices around here that not many of the other locals where I live grow. Um, so it allows me not only to sell the products to them, the after effect products, but the seeds, the roots, the trees themselves, so they can repopulate a self reliant food forest where they're living as well.
Thank you so much for helping this because of course if you just go to the most grocery stores, even most farmers markets in Costa Rica, like you still find the same varieties. And it is so special when you come across that one vendor that sells those things that you can't find anywhere else. That's my favorite vendor always. And when I go to the market in San Isidro, there's a few of those vendors and it's a shame that there's so few of them because they have like the yummiest things because we get tired of eating the same papayas and the same bananas all the time, so it's so nice to discover those things that you've never seen. You're like, what is this? And then it's like an explosion in your mouth, right? What's your favorite thing that you've saved or that you're trying to propagate?
Gosh, there's so many. Honestly, without going into too much elaborate detail of all the things I love here, I would say the first thing that came to mind were it's cacao trees. So what we make chocolate with, the fruit cacao. And when I first moved here, the government kind of came along and restructured this little quebrada, a little brook in front of my house, to be deeper so we wouldn't flood. And while they were doing this, about half a mile down from my house, there was this giant cacao tree. It was probably hundreds of years old. And it's a cacao native to this area that I live in. So obviously, there's different breeds all over the place, all different regions, all different zones. They knocked this tree down kind of accidentally as part of the construction. And I ran over there when I knew that happened, and I grabbed as many of the pods, which have the seeds, as possible. And I've replanted about a dozen on my property, and I give them away also. And I'm also selling that breed here at the nursery, the Vivero. So I would say that's like the most important for me because it was from this land. It connected me to this land. It wasn't something I bought from another nursery or another vendor. It was one of those things that I felt like the land itself, when I moved here, gifted me these seeds to perpetuate for this. It's honestly, if I think about it, I don't know where any of the trees came from, the mangoes and avocados that I moved here with, and then I've planted things that are all from elsewhere. So this might be the most native to my land tree that I'll ever grow, which is really cool to share that as well, because it was not just gifted to me or I didn't just buy the seed somewhere. The land actually provided it and kind of woke me up to the fact that you got to go save these seeds. This tree needs to have babies and perpetuate forever. So yeah, I'd say that's the most important.
You are so in connection with the land and you're listening to the plants. They're speaking to you. I know that this can sound a little woo for some people, except that I think that this listening is how we create regenerative systems, is how we build an earth that is a lot more in harmony with everything, essentially. And so thank you for sharing, yeah, that your ability to tune in. And that's one thing. So Tobin and I recorded a previous episode that is on his channel, where he goes a lot more into detail about these things, about his relationship with the plants. That is super interesting. Today, I'm posting on my channel something that's just a little bit more concise. So if you want to have the whole story, then go and check out that interview on his channel. But Tobin, what do you feel when you connect with the plants? What are you hearing?
It's a subtleness. It's a very subtle language, but it's a language nonetheless. I guess the easiest way to explain it to people that are not into botanicals or working on farms, or are more kind of urban maybe and not experiencing nature on a daily basis. Next time you're around a bunch of trees, notice what their leaves are doing and try to set some intentional thoughts of like asking for winds to come in, or asking for them to dance, or asking for them to say something to you. You could say it out loud. If there's other people around, you don't want to seem crazy. Kind of say it within yourself and observe. Don't expect, but observe what happens after. That's the best way I can introduce it, because most of my day I'm wandering around this property and there's dozens, if not hundreds of varieties of trees and plants. And it's like being around dozens of living animals or humans of some sort, in the sense that they all have unique personalities. They're all going to communicate in a different way, just as the birds, in a sense. But they don't make the same language as a bird. They speak in subtlety. Dogs are louder, they're stronger, right? Humans are very strong in our language. The trees are soft and they move at a different pace. They grow at a different pace than we do. And their focus in life, where humans and other animals, our focus is motion. Their focus is stillness. So it's a inverted language from what we understand typically. And if you can observe their stillness and notice when they're, let's say, normal, there is deviation and there is change. You can see in people on YouTube do time-lapsed videos, 24 hours of a plant, and they actually dance throughout the day. It's just at a much slower, smoother pace, controlled pace. It's almost like hyperactive Tai Chi, in a sense. Like they've gained the mastery of slowing down so much that it looks like stillness, but it's still movement. And the same thing with how they communicate linguistically, in a sense. It's softer, it's more subtle, it's spanned out over a longer period, but they're very much communicating. And all day I have different subtle communications with every unique plant, and they tell me if they need water based on what the leaves look like. The leaves will crumple a little bit and get a little drier if they need some water, so they're speaking to you. If they're too watered, the leaves get soggy and droopy. Like there's subtle languages that if you start to learn it, you can understand exactly what they're saying at any given time, and it's very unique.
It brings us back to living in the present moment. It brings us back to noticing our environment and that we are not separate from our environment. So I think that this is the future of creating harmony and of living with and from the land. In reverence for the land is really by paying respect, by listening, and by observing. So I think you are a teacher for us all in terms of how we can actually harness our innate gifts to connect with the natural world that is not separate from us. And the trees are always speaking to us, and you don't need to be a channeler to be able to connect with the trees. You just have to come back into silence within yourself in order to do so.
That's very true. It's very, very true. And what I find really interesting about the trees is that if you were to lay on the ground on your back, looking up at the branches of a tree, every, obviously, tree has a different set of branches and a different skin in a sense like that. But I studied anatomy in school many years. I was, a kinesiologist of sorts. So I studied the nervous system and the nerve networks for many years of my life, and then taught other people about them. Trees literally look exactly like nerves inside the human body. So the way I see the trees are Mother Earth's, the planet, which is a living entity's nerves that somehow are projecting through her skin, the surface, and integrating themselves into the atmosphere where we live. And then you go further and stretch it out, and they're providing fruit at a certain point, they're providing shade, they're providing flowers, pollinators, so many gifts for all living things on Earth. It's super inspiring because we as humans cannot extend our nerves outside of our skin to provide fruitfulness for other living things. We haven't evolved to that point yet, but the planet has, and the trees to me are an expression of these like um how do you say like a mystical ability that the planet has gained to extend itself further than its own borders, its own skin, to help provide for every other living thing on the planet. I just wanted to touch upon that because that's a symbolic language in itself of like what we could do with our full potential if we studied the planet properly.
When you were describing that, it just made me think of what we often experience in plant medicine ceremonies where you suddenly like really understand the whole network that's happening beneath the surface that we're not seeing, because I mean this is a world of the unseen in reality, you know. The this 3D, what we see before us is so small and limited in terms of what's actually happening. And by opening up to first believing that there's so much more and then learning to or harness our natural abilities to commune with it, life becomes just so much richer and it gives so much more meaning to life, right? A lot of us are looking for a sense of spirituality. We're lost, and so we turn to different cultures, or different traditions, when in reality the most precious and accessible form of spirituality is nature, is the elements, is the trees, is the birds, is the waters, is everything. And this, for me, is what's so remarkable about Costa Rica, and it's this abundance. And I think that the abundance that's present here is really what offers the opportunity for people to come and heal. They're healing from nature, they're healing from the trees, from
They're healing from the trees. Kind of back tying that into what I was saying is that because Costa Rica has so much ecological conservation and biodiversity, there are more nerve networks from the planet concentrated here in Costa Rica than almost anywhere on the planet. So they are healing literally from the trees because there is more potential medicine and connection to the entirety of life here in this planet, here in Costa Rica. So it just kind of tied that together that you're absolutely right. They are healing from the trees.